we will be recording this call so that way members and allies who aren't able to attend tonight is able to watch it later on. So be mindful of that. If you don't want to be recorded, you could leave your camera off, but thank you. So to get started tonight, we're going to briefly hop into some membership announcements. As y'all know, we like to highlight our members who are official new members, as well as folks who complete orientation, and give a brief update. So this month, our official new members are Denise C, Sharon M, and Adam C. So we want to take a minute to congratulate them, give a little clap for choosing membership and doing everything needed to complete and be official members of IJ Action as we power build together, and really appreciate everybody, for what y'all do. And if you haven't had an opportunity to fill out the membership application yet, there will be a time where we will drop that link in the chat, and you all will have an opportunity to choose membership as well as we power build together. Oh, there goes Adam. Hey, Adam, we just announced you as an official new member. and so also too, we want to highlight our members that are complete orientation, because once you fill out your membership application and get that process started, when you complete orientation, you become and you also to attend, sign a membership pledge and agree to attend not to miss more than 3 member meetings a year, you become an official active member. And so active members have a couple extra privileges and caveats to being an active member. So we want to briefly highlight or talk about orientation. So this past month, I had to cancel orientation because I was sick. So I took a couple of days off. And I want to let y'all know that if you've already completed orientation or the application process, to email me, J@IJ Action, and I'll be happy to email you the link to RSVP for orientation next month, because it will resume next month. So I apologize for those that was inconvenienced because of the counseling this month. And orientation is on the first Tuesday of each month. Okay, cool. So also too, we want to have some transparency and let y'all know about the money that's being collected for member dues for those who are able to donate, who choose to donate. And so this past month, for the last 30 days, we collected $142 in membership donations. So we want to thank y'all for that. And also too, just remember that donations is based on capacity. So if you have the capacity to donate monetarily, we appreciate it. If you don't, it's completely fine. So we want to highlight that and let y'all know that that's, how we able to, print supplies, member shirts and equipment and stuff like that, along with fundraising. So we really appreciate that. And with that being said, I'm going to go into a brief overview of our membership structure and what that looks like. And so I'll share my screen briefly. If I can, because for some reason. And so this is a wonderful.
Sorry, Jay, I was just going to say a couple of folks were messaging me. If you already completed the application, yes, you are already a member. This disclaimer is for folks who maybe this is their first time joining, or they haven't completed the membership application yet. So, just want to let folks know, if you're not yet a member, here's what you can do to become a member.
Yeah, and I apologize for not being absolutely clear, but thank you for that, Tanya. So here's a wonderful visual that was produced by our communications team, and it just gives you a basic visual of our 2 membership structures. So we have supportive members, and supportive members are people who complete their application, pay their annual member dues, they participate in meetings and committees when possible. And then we also have active members. Active members have completed the application, paid their annual dues, completed new member orientation, they commit to attending journal meetings, they sign up for at least one committee, and sign our member pledge. And so, of course, we would like everyone to be active members. However, we understand that some people have different capacities, working full-time school and everything else like that. But also, they still want to be a part and still contribute. And that's why we have developed 2 different types of membership. And so we just want to highlight that and let y'all know that we are being mindful and we appreciate your commitment to abolishing marginalization. So I'll stop the share right there. And we're going to speak about, again, so the membership dues, as we mentioned, it's important to remember that, as I mentioned previously, the membership dues are not a mandatory minimum. There is no obligation that has to be, paid. It's specifically, if you have the opportunity to pay, if you have the capacity, you would like to contribute, then it's appreciated. If not, on the membership application, there's a portion where you mark, I'm unable to contribute, and that's perfectly fine. So our general member meetings are held on the second Tuesday of each month from 6:30 to 7:30. So we'll be dropping that RSVP link in the chat, and that way folks will be able to RSVP for next month's meeting, and you're able to stay in the loop. And I kind of feel like I've been talking for a minute. So briefly, we're going to get into our committee updates here. And I'll start off, of course, since I'm already, jabbing. I'm going to be talking about the Membership and Outreach Committee to kick things off, because I am the chair of the Membership and Outreach Committee. And Membership and Outreach Committee is in charge of member recruitment, policy actions, community engagement for elections, outreach efforts, and also helping with the get out to vote and voter registration outreach efforts. So our as a part of the Membership and Outreach Committee, we're basically tasked with a lot of the engagements, helping with the voter guide distribution, entering transitional homes, tabling at events when possible and sanctioned by IJ Action. Also, maybe asked if you have capacity to do other small tasks. And so that's what our responsibility is. That's what we're tasked with. And our meeting days for Membership and Outreach Committee is the third Tuesday of each month from 6:30 to 7:30. And we also will drop that link in the chat for folks who are members and who would like to RSVP to attend that meeting, or you could email me privately and I'll be sure to get that RSVP link out to you, or even message me. I'll take your name down and email you, make sure we get you there. And so, like I said, for any information regarding Membership and Outreach, feel free to email me. My email is jay@ijaction.org. And with that, I'll go ahead and kick it to Emiliano, our amazing communications director, the one who put together that beautiful visual and a lot of other artwork that you've seen.
I don't know what happened to him, Jay. I don't see him on here.
Oh my, look at me. I'm messing up.
No,
Okay, well then in that case, I can kick it to
him.
okay.
Yeah. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, so maybe he had a glitch. I'll go ahead and give the update for my amazing partner. So Emiliano is obviously experiencing some technical difficulties. So Communications and Fundraising Committee is a committee that's tasked with communications, so like social media, introductions, policy items, posting, and bringing awareness to the wonderful work that we're doing here at IJ, and also the IJ family and other partner organizations. We have a committee based with members and staff, and Communications and Fundraising also will be responsible for hosting fundraising events and just bringing awareness and helping out. So for information about Communications and Fundraising, or how you can be a part of what they're doing there in those meetings, feel free to email Emiliano, EMILIANO @IJ Action, and we will also drop that in the chat so that way folks can get in contact with him, or you can email me, jay@ijaction.org, and I'll be happy to direct the communication so that we get you in touch with the right person. And with that, I'll pass it to Taina.
Yeah, and I think this is an announcement that Emiliano was going to make, so I'll make it. Some folks might know already, but the member shirts are in, so I am wearing one. So if you are officially a member of Initiate Justice, you may have already received your shirt, or Jay is going to be sending it to you very soon. So he'll be sending out an email to check your mailing address and make sure that everything is correct, but you will be getting your member shirt and an IJ action. Yes, MJ got hers already. I know Adam got his. So if you are already a member, Jay is going to be reaching out to you. But if you're not a member yet, that's okay. You can sign up and then you will officially get your member shirt. So yeah, Jay is coming in the mail tomorrow, man. It's coming in the mail tomorrow. You're gonna get yours tomorrow. But yeah, thank you all so much for indulging us. I think I'll go ahead and transition us to the main part of the meeting this evening, which is our endorsement process. So give me a sec. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So for folks who have, been part of IJ action from the beginning, or even not from the beginning, you're probably aware that we have been talking about our process of endorsing candidates for a while now. We did a lot of work in the primary election, but we weren't ready to endorse candidates yet. But now for the general election, like we are finally ready to do this. So I'm excited to share that we have got our ducks in a row for the most part. And we are, we've put together like a formal process of what this is going to look like. So this evening, I'm gonna, just walk you all through what we have decided to do for this general election to let everybody know like how y'all can be involved, especially if you are a member of Initiate Justice Action. You will have the opportunity to vote in our candidate endorsement process. Yeah, and I think the way that I'm going to do this presentation is definitely feel free to interrupt at any point. Probably the easiest way for me to see is if you like digitally raise your hand. If you go to, I think, reactions and then raise hand, your screen will pop up on my screen and I'll see that you have a question and I can call on you. Or if you just want to unmute and interrupt me and hop in, that is also fine. I I understand that folks might not have like any experience in doing candidate endorsement work unless you've already been part of like a political party, something like that. So a lot of this probably going to be a little bit confusing, not make a lot of sense. So if you don't understand anything at any point or want some clarification, please do not hesitate to interrupt me. I'm happy to answer any and all questions. And that being said, let me hop on in. And hi, Marianne.
Also, if you don't feel comfortable talking, you could write your questions in the chat. I'm monitoring it and I'll be able to pass that along to Tahina. Thank you.
Yes, because I will not be looking at the chat while I'm presenting. Thanks, Jay. All right. So, I just want to start with an overview because I know that we do have some folks here, but this is their first time joining an IJ action meeting. So, just to go over our mission, the mission of Initiate Justice Action is to mobilize the power of people who are impacted by incarceration to advance progressive policies in California. So we do that by accomplishing a couple of different goals. One, we bring the political power, we build political power of impacted people across California. How do we do that? We do that by ensuring that people who are impacted by incarceration know about their right to vote, are engaged in the voting process, have an informed vote, and are in communication with their elected officials. We want to make sure that system impacted folks are consistently having their voices heard when it comes to electoral politics. The second goal is to advance progressive policies in California guided by our abolitionist principles. So that will look like working on various pieces of legislation and ballot measures in the future that will help bring people home from prison and make our community safer. And then our third goal, which is what this endorsement process will address, is to organize candidates and elected officials to commit to championing and supporting progressive policies. Now, for anybody who, pays attention to what happens in politics, a lot of times we feel like we don't want to participate or we don't want to vote because we often feel like the candidates are not supporting like our political interest. When it comes to justice reform and prison abolition in particular, it's really difficult to get candidates to commit to anything substantial. There's a lot of reasons for that. And one of the reasons is they feel like they want to win elections, right? And they might feel that it's more difficult for them to win an election if they take a really courageous view on prison abolition. If they start to advance really progressive policies, then they might not be able to get elected moving forward. So Initiate Justice Action wants to be part of like the ecosystem that is changing that is, offering an incentive for people who are running for political office to run on progressive and abolitionist platforms. We want folks who are courageous to step up to the plate, to run for office, and to know that they're going to have the community behind them. So one of the many ways that we can do that is to formally endorse candidates who are running for office. And that is what I'm going to be going over today. So IJ Action, as I said, is officially going to be endorsing candidates for the November general election. And we're going to have two entities who are really responsible for moving these endorsements forward. The first of which is the Endorsement Committee. And I want to state that previously we've been calling this the Political Action Committee. We decided to change the name and to make it a little bit more specific so that it's not confused with a PAC, which is like a funding entity. We want to be very clear that this committee is working towards our candidate endorsements and the strategy around which campaigns we're working on. So our endorsement committee is going to be tasked with leading the process for endorsing candidates, supporting or opposing recall efforts, and taking positions on legislation and ballot measures. So the endorsement committee is going to be like the main body that is helping to figure out like which candidate races do we even want to weigh in on, what pieces of legislation or ballot measures should we be prioritizing. They're kind of just going to be like taking the lead on like starting that process. And the endorsement committee shall be composed of all IJ Action board members and staff. The endorsement committee will make recommendations for candidate endorsements and add them to a consent calendar. I'm going to talk in great detail about what a consent calendar is. And the consent calendar must be approved by the IJ Action membership. So the way that this is set up is that the kind of like groundwork is going to be done by the endorsement committee, which is going to be made up of IJ Action board members and staff. However, the ultimate decision-making authority is going to rest with the members. Anything that the endorsement committee recommends or suggests is subject to the final approval of the IJ Action membership. So if you're already a member, great. If you're not a member yet, you can become a member. So IJ Action membership. An IJ Action member is anyone who has completed a membership application and contributed the membership dues, even if the amount is $0. So as Jay said, you can contribute membership dues if you want. There's no set amount. You can give us $5, $50, $500, $0, whatever it is that you want to contribute. That is fine in order for you to become a member of Initiate Justice Action. Since the IJ Action membership is so new, at this time, both supportive and active members will be allowed to vote in the candidate and endorsement process for the November 2022 general election. So in future endorsement processes, one incentive of becoming like an active member will be to participate in the endorsement process. But since the membership is so new and really we're still figuring the process out, we figured that it would be more fair for us to be able to say, okay, anybody who's a member right now is going to be able to participate in our endorsement process. And IJ Action members must approve the endorsement committee's consent calendar, which means that members have the final say on endorsements. So this is an overview. I can definitely get into more details. Are there any questions at this point before I get into the details? All right. So these are the different steps for our endorsement process. All right, so step number one, the endorsement committee determines which candidates to interview. So IJ Action, as a statewide org, for the most part, we focus on candidates who are running for state office. And anybody who's been a member of IJ on the C3 side knows that it's the same thing. We focus on statewide bills. So the candidates who we're going to be considering for endorsement are going to be running for these offices for the most part, which is state administration, which is like governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, controller, treasurer, like those things, offices in the state administration. The Board of Equalization. Those are 4 people who are elected to represent different regions across the state of California, and they are in charge of managing what happens with our property tax dollars. The State Senate, which of course is the 40-member the upper house, legislative house of the state of California, and the State Assembly, which is the lower house, which has 80 members. We are open to considering endorsements for other office on a case-by-case basis, and those will come at the recommendations of board members, staff, and any IJ members. So if you're like, hey, you know what, there's this race in Kern County that I think is really important and IJ should weigh in on it, you can definitely reach out to us and let us know. Same with ballot measures and things like that. I know a couple of folks have already sent me emails around things they want us to look at. So if there's anything outside of like this regular scope of work that you think IJ Action should be paying attention to, please feel free to contact us and let us know. Step number 2, candidates are sent questionnaires. So if you've been part of an endorsement process before, you know that this is how it typically goes. The endorsement committee will develop a questionnaire, or in this case, we already have developed a questionnaire that has many questions asking about a candidate's public safety platform. Do they support the repeal of 3 strikes? How do they feel about making things retroactive? Are they accepting money from law enforcement? The questionnaire will have some really hard-hitting questions to get to the root around their views on the issues that we care about. So the questionnaires are developed and then sent to all of the candidates we are considering endorsing. Oh, and one thing that I should mention back to step number 1, even though we're looking at all of these state offices, we're not going to send a questionnaire to every single person running for those offices. There might be some people who either we know we would never endorse them because their politics are not in alignment with ours, so we wouldn't waste our time. Or B, maybe they're like already a really well-established candidate, or maybe they're running unopposed and they wouldn't necessarily need our support. So we want to just like reach out to the races that are a little bit more strategic for us, like being such a small organization. So where we are in the process now, we have sent questionnaires to, I think, about 40 candidates running for these different offices, and we're waiting to hear back now. And then step number 3 is candidates are interviewed. This is the fun part. So any candidate who completes a questionnaire is also invited to be interviewed by Initiate Justice Action Endorsement Committee and membership. So interviews will be scheduled during the evenings and weekends so that as many members as possible can participate. Members may submit questions ahead of time in writing, but only endorsement committee members will facilitate and ask questions during the interviews. That's mostly just so that we can keep things, very clean and strategic. Want to make sure that we stay on track with the candidate interviews. But yes, anybody who is a member of IJ Action is invited to join those interviews and can listen in. Step number 4 is the endorsement committee votes to establish a consent calendar. So after we do all of the endorsement interviews, which will likely take a couple of weeks, the endorsement committee will meet. And again, the endorsement committee is IJ Action board and staff. They'll meet in a closed session and they'll vote to place candidates on a consent calendar for recommendation for endorsement. So what that looks like is, we'll say, hey, I know that we interviewed these 2 people running for this race, think this person's politics are more in alignment with ours. We think that we should endorse this candidate. Or if we only interviewed 1 person in a certain race, we can decide if we want to endorse them or not. We don't have to endorse in every single race. So the endorsement committee will make recommendations for, how we think we should endorse, and then we'll place them on a consent calendar, which it's a fancy word for it, just a list. It's a list of our recommendations. And then the list will be submitted to all IJ Action members in writing so that everybody can see what the consent calendar is, what the recommendations are, so they can consider their views on that as well. And Megan, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a question. So let's say you come across a candidate that does hold to the same values, but that honestly their response is they would like to be able to stay in alignment with that, but that their particular area had a heavy amount of people that signed up to recall Gascon or something, you know, and they know that if they were to talk, you know, if they were to talk out what they would like to be able to do, that they would not be able to win, let's say, in that area, at least at this time, because they're too new or something. I mean, which is a very realistic thing right now. How are we gonna, you know, how would you honestly tell them? Because the truth is, at this point in time, that might be a very real thing. Like, they might be in alignment with us, but for them to win, they may not be able to say that to their constituents at this point.
Yeah, that's a really great point, and I don't think that there's a blanket answer to that. I think that we're going to have to take a lot of things into consideration with each candidate. One thing to consider is viability. So do we think that this candidate, you know, has like a real chance of winning in their district? Have they raised money? Do they have a good campaign strategy? These are also questions that we would be asking them during the interview process. But if there is a candidate who, you know, we can see that they're pretty much in alignment with us and they're running in a tough district, and it seems like it would be a good move strategically, like for us to come out and support them, then I'm sure that that's something that we would recommend. But again, you know, I can speak for myself and, you know, how I think other folks would vote, but these are things that we should all be taking into consideration, people who are on the endorsement committee, as well as IJ Action members in general, when you all are making your votes as well. So yeah, we have kind of like a very rough guideline for what the criteria is. But we don't want to have it to be too strict because we really don't know what we're going to encounter in talking to all of these candidates. So we want to make sure that, you know, we're just making the best decisions that we can. Thanks, Megan. Crash, I see your hand up.
I had a similar question, but it was kind of the opposite. Like, what if we see a candidate who says that they're representing our values, but that's just not happening? I see so many candidates that throw the term abolition around and they'll go eat up 15 to 20% of the vote, right? But do they believe in our values? No. Do they understand how governing even works half the time? Absolutely not. Do they get a lot of their rich friends to donate? Yeah. And that's what worries me. I see a lot of that going on. I see a lot of people who ran as abolitionists who have now dropped out, lying about things that I know otherwise with screenshot receipts to be untrue. And it's just, I mean, I hope we're not going to partake in the circus. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of my concern, is like that we're looking too closely at, can people win or can't they win? Or rather than like, can we meet them where they're at? Can they speak to us as human beings? I think it's worth noting that Santiago, I don't think was considered an IJ ally up until ever. And I mean, he's willing to pretty much vote down ballot with us right now because his office is helping me with my tenant issue in my building, like, and my tenant union, and like his staff is coming tomorrow to help with that. Due to alleged business, Santiago has our back. No, he does a lot of good things with the LAPD, but at the same time, is he willing to vote on, you know, assembly bills that we want passed? Absolutely. And I think that's worth taking into account, more so than candidates that will just throw out terms like abolition, and you're like, what does that mean? And they're like, I'm not going to hire one police officer. And it's like, that's not actually your call, but word, you know what I mean? Like, that's my only concern. But other than that, it's not even a concern, just a point to make, because honestly, I also will always speak out against people that nobody does. And that organization particularly is one that sees very little opposition and endorses a lot of candidates. And they're the only segregationalists that I see in the liberation movement, and it's all white people. So I do have a lot to say about that and personal experience with that, and I just wanted to put that on record now, if not ever. But mad love, and I love this because this is
No, absolutely. Thank you, Crash. Well, first of all, I want to say that's why we also want the membership to have a vote in this, because there's always going to be things that like membership can see and, knows that we're not aware of. We know that people are, represented across different Senate and Assembly districts. So it's great that you're able to share that experience that you have with that office. But I think one of the first questions on our questionnaire actually is like, how do you define prison abolition? Like, what does that mean to you? So, hopefully we'll be able to like ask these tough questions and get some responses from candidates. And if they are somebody who is already in office, then we can compare their responses to what their voting record is or how they've engaged with the community. So yeah, these are definitely things that we all need to take into consideration. So thank you, Crash, and thank you, Megan, for your questions. I am gonna move us along though. So after the endorsement committee puts together its consent calendar, like, our list of candidates that we are recommending to endorse, we're gonna have an endorsement meeting. So this is a meeting where the endorsement committee members attend and all the IJ Action members attend. And this is where we finalize everything and do our final vote. So for the endorsement meeting, the first step is giving folks the option to pull races from the consent calendar. So any endorsement committee or IJ Action member can make a motion to remove a race from the consent calendar. So let's say, for example, this is a bad example because I don't think we're going to endorse in this race, but it's all I can think of right now. I live in Assembly District 46, where the two candidates are Jesse Gabriel, who's the incumbent, and Dana Caruso, who's a Republican, like retired school principal or something. So let's say IJ Action made an endorsement for Jesse Gabriel, and a member was like, actually, I think that we should endorse Dana Caruso. This is a bad example, but then any person, a member or a member of the endorsement committee can make a motion to say, I want to pull Assembly District 46 from the consent calendar. It has to be seconded, and at least 10% of whoever is there has the vote to say, okay, yes, let's pull this from the consent calendar. So if we have 50 people in the meeting, we just need 5 people to say, let's pull this from the consent calendar. And from there, we have a discussion. People can speak in support of one candidate, people can speak in support of another candidate, but this is a place where we can have a conversation around whether or not, the full membership agrees with the recommendation for this endorsement. And then after we have the conversation, we'll do an anonymous poll, and a candidate has to receive 50% plus 1 of the vote to secure the endorsement. So in that example, between Jesse Gabriel and Dana Caruso, whichever candidate gets a majority of the votes, that's the candidate that we will end up endorsing. So the membership does have the opportunity to pull things from the consent calendar to say, this is something that we don't agree with, or it doesn't even necessarily have to be that the membership doesn't agree with the recommendation. If they just want to have like a more like vigorous debate about, the different candidates that we're looking at, then that's fine. You could also say like, hey, there's only one candidate that we looked at in this race, and I want to pull it because I don't think that we should endorse that candidate at all. Or if there was one candidate we interviewed in a race and the endorsement committee made no recommendation saying, actually, I don't think we should endorse anybody in this race, you can pull that item and make the case for why you should endorse that candidate. So during the endorsement meeting, the first line of motions that we can make are to pull items that from the consent calendar that the endorsement committee put together. So once you vote on all of the issues that have been pulled from the consent calendar, then we can move to the next step, because most likely there's going to be some items that were not pulled from the consent calendar, where it's like pretty clear, everybody understands or agrees on those issues, I should say. We don't need to pull anything from the consent calendar, and then we just vote on the consent calendar. And once the majority of the membership and endorsement committee vote to approve the consent calendar, it's approved. So that means all of the candidates who are on the consent calendar who didn't get pulled, they get approved. And then for all of the candidates who did get pulled, you know, pending the outcome of what that race is, or, you know, what that vote was, then those candidates would be endorsed as well. So yay, in theory, this is gonna work pretty smoothly. I should say I'm part of a Democratic club where we do this, and there's no orientation and no explanation of things, and yet somehow it still moves forward. So I have faith in us and our team, because I think that we're all smart and passionate, and this process will work. So then the next step is the endorsements are announced. So we'll notify the candidates about our decision, you know, whether or not we decided to endorse them. Then we'll announce it on our social media platforms, and endorsed candidates will also appear in our voter guide. And then the last step is that IJ Action will share any opportunities to support endorsed candidates. So that's usually something that comes along within an endorsement. You know, what does that mean to a candidate to get an endorsement? Like, it's great if you're, you know, telling your members in your base to vote for this person, but they probably, you know, would want something a little bit like more tangible as well, to build like a good faith relationship with us. So any opportunity that comes up to volunteer for our endorsed candidates campaigns, we will share those with the membership. And the one thing that I did not write here anywhere, because I couldn't figure out where to put it, is another way that IJ Action will be supporting candidates and discussing in our endorsement process is whether or not to provide campaign contributions to a candidate that we decide to endorse. We have raised a little bit of money that we are allowed to use for candidate contributions. There's like very specific rules around what kind of funds you can use for this and what kind of funds you can't. So we have raised a little bit of money, and it is something that we would like to do to contribute, if anything, like a small amount of money to the candidates who we decide to endorse. Because more than anything, like, we want to show these candidates, like, look, you don't need to just be listening to the cops. You don't need to just be listening to the DAs. Like, here is an abolitionist organization that is made up of system impacted people and allies. And we have the knowledge, we have the base and the membership, and we also have the funds to support your campaign if you're a qualified candidate. So we want to, you know, put on the pressure. And hopefully, you know, moving forward, we'll start to see like more and more abolitionist organizations doing something similar to kind of like shift the dynamic. But before I move on, I know that was a lot, and the process, like, you know, can be a little bit difficult to understand. I did my best to break it down, but are there any questions?
If I may, I just wanted to just kind of add a little context as far as like some people, you know, may think like, hey, why not cast out a broad net and, you know, interview everybody? Why not send questionnaires to everyone? And I would say that the reason because is that the IJ Action endorsement is going to be a specific badge of honor, like an exclusive endorsement. Like, we're not going to be like a lot of other organizations who just give endorsements to everybody and then they become meaningless, or it's just a show of solidarity because of the color of their ballot that they're running. And also it would be doing a disjustice to legislators who do support, you know, IJ policies and who are, you know, in those on those floors and chambers fighting for, you know, transformative justice bills. So I just kind of want to put that out there so folks can have an understanding of why we're not just, you know, casting a wide net trying to capture all the fish. We want the people who are, you know, standing for beliefs and ideals and who are trying to pilot transformative change here in California.
Yes, and something that I should add to offer just like a little bit like more context and transparency is these ideas like didn't just come from like the board members. We also brought on a consultant who is a directly impacted Black woman who has lots of experience working on campaigns. We also consulted with somebody who runs the ACLU of Northern California and has been doing like ballot and candidate work for like 25 years. So yeah, this process has been vetted by, you know, people who know what they're doing much more than we do. But I will say that this is I don't want to use the word like experimental, right? But I should say like willing, we are open to change. This is our first time doing this. I don't think a lot of organizations like ours engage in processes like these. So if at any point in the process, like members have feedback for us, thoughts on how we could do it better, or things, that we think are really great and we should lean into more, we probably will do like a formal evaluation like after the election. So please know that, anything, we are open to learning from this experience. So please keep that in mind. So next I am going to move into our timeline, because all of that is like, the process and how it's going, but it's happening now, right? So here's where we are in the process. So as I mentioned earlier, the candidate questionnaires have already been sent out, and the deadline for candidates to submit their questionnaires back to us is Friday, August 12th. And between Monday, August 15th and Tuesday, August 30th, so just a period of just over 2 weeks, that is when we are going to be doing the candidate interviews. So again, those are going to be led by the endorsement committee, which means we'll be the ones like scheduling them, like developing the questions, putting the Zoom together and all of that stuff. But all IJ Action members will be invited. So once they are scheduled, we will send invitations to anybody who is an IJ Action member. And you're welcome to join as many of them as you want. And once you see the schedule and you look at the candidates who we're interviewing, you can send us questions in writing and say, hey, I want to ask Alex Lee about X, Y, or Z. We're going to have like our own questions that we'll want to get to, but we'll, do our best to take the questions that folks submit into consideration, maybe try and work them into our own questions, so that everybody can feel heard. But as I mentioned, like in terms of the structure of the interview, we do want to keep it so that it's just endorsement committee members who are actually facilitating and asking the questions. But again, members are welcome to participate, to listen in. Oh, I didn't mention this. We'll also be sharing the questionnaire responses with members as well. But we will ask that you keep those confidential. Please don't go sharing them with your friends, family. Don't go posting nothing on social media like, oh, so-and-so said this in their questionnaire. This is confidential for the purposes of our endorsement process. And then Wednesday, August 31st is when the endorsement committee is going to meet to establish the consent calendar. So this will be the closed session where the endorsement committee puts together our recommendations in the form of a consent calendar. And then we'll send it out to folks. And then the next day, the next evening, and we can go ahead and calendar this now. The endorsement meeting will take place on Thursday, September 1st, the same time, 6:30 p.m. I can send out like what we'll probably do is send out a calendar invite as early as possible to all of the members, because this is the important meeting that you want to be at. And the endorsement meeting is where you will have the opportunity to vote to either pull items from the consent calendar, to discuss items on the consent calendar, and then approve the remaining items on the consent calendar, which will make our endorsements final. Yay. And then Friday, September 2nd, our candidate endorsements will be announced. We wanted to do this as soon as possible. You have more of an impact, when you start to throw your political weight around early on in the electoral process. And don't forget, our voter guide is coming out October 10th. So we wanted to have like all the endorsements and everything like completely finalized before we put out our endorsement guide. So yeah, that is the timeline. Thank you for building power with us. Are there any questions, thoughts, concerns, feedback? Also, if there's anything that you don't want to discuss here, you can also email me. I can drop my email here.
Hey, Tanya, so Amy has a question in the chat is, have we gotten any of the questionnaires back?
I haven't seen any of them yet. I'm not sure. So I think I told y'all we're working with a consultant. I think they're submitting the responses directly to May Gates, our consultant. So I haven't seen any of the responses yet, but I did see quite a few candidates respond saying, you know, thanks for sending the questionnaire. We will fill it out before the deadline.
And then also they're raving in the chat about the fire photo from
You
the
know,
photo shoot.
I had to get Emiliano's permission to put this photo. He wanted to like keep some of these photos secret, but I was like, nah, bro, like we need to show off your photography skills and show off these shirts because they're fire. I know these aren't the shirts Jay wanted. Jay wanted the other shirts, but you know, but they look good. Andy, do I see your hand up?
Wow, just throw me under the bus, huh? I love this shirt. It's amazing. I just
I
haven't
love
got my
this picture because Adam looks like me. Oh, I look like Adam.
Y'all do look like each other right there.
No, but so last time was my first time voting, so I'm still like, this process is still something big for me. If when we do get these candidates, I don't know if we could do like, I don't know if people are in the same area and get togethers to vote, because it's still like a process for me, kind of really anxious. And I had the person from Restorative Justice from the college that I go with me, and it was very overwhelming to do it, because even after it, I couldn't believe that I was doing it. I couldn't believe, and everybody back home was like, how are you able to vote? Because in New York, they can't vote yet. So it's just, when we are gonna support these candidates, are we gonna be lobbying for them together too? Because for me to do that by myself could be done, but I'd rather have a team with me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for lifting that up, Andy. Like, one, just thank you so much for like your vulnerability and sharing your story with us. Like, I remember seeing your posts on social media when you voted, and that was very like impactful and moving for me, because we worked really hard to win voting rights back for folks who are on parole. So I'm just grateful that you're out here and that you're doing the work. And yes, like voting is definitely something that we should be doing in community. We hadn't like finalized this yet, but something that we've been talking about as a team is like doing like ballot parties and things like that. Like, you know, getting folks that are part of IJ Action like together to like fill out our ballots like in community, to answer any questions that folks may have. So absolutely, that's something that we are open to doing and I think would be really impactful. And yes, around volunteering to support the candidates who we've endorsed, we will be sharing like any volunteer opportunities that come our way with all of our membership. And if that's something that you are interested in doing, like we can definitely like connect and do it together.
And
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I also too wanted to briefly add that the IJ Action team, we had attended a like a meeting of sorts of different organizations around the nation who's doing work with helping people who are formerly and currently incarcerated get their right to vote back. And just with the passage of Prop 17, the work that we're doing here is so impactful and amazing. Just like what Andy was speaking about, one brother spoke about how the government works in Rhode Island, where if you're banned from voting federally, you're basically banned from all elections, because you have to, like, the federal candidates is the ones who appoint all of the candidates below. So just think about, you know, being in such a small state like that would impact the community, and just being mathematically blocked out of all say so in every single thing. And, you know, the people who are fighting, you know, along with us and trying to figure out what we're doing so they can implement it there to get folks re-enfranchised. Like, this work is so powerful and it has so much implications, and that's why we're passionate about it, and we appreciate everyone who shows up.
Thanks, Jay. Stephanie, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm new. This is my first meeting, so it's just a question. I was just curious if you guys have thought about or doing like ballot initiatives or something regarding voting and voting rights and voting, like basically like a lot of employers, you know, work their employees really hard, especially around election times in terms of overtime and all that. So they don't really have a lot of the time, the reason they don't participate is because they're busy with work and family. and aren't familiar with what they need to know. So I was just wondering if there's something to maybe, actually make it a day off for workers to be able to do that.
Yes, thanks for that question, Stephanie. And thanks for joining us. Yeah, we met Stephanie at Night Out for Safety and Liberation here in the Valley last week. So, and I see some other Valley folks. I saw Kat and Jolly here as well. So welcome, y'all. Yeah, so we are very much in support of working on ballot measures. The last ballot measure we worked on was Prop 17, which of course restored voting rights for folks on parole. A ballot measure that we are going to be working on for the 2024 election is to repeal the 3 strikes law. So we're already, committed to that and have been doing like a lot of work to behind the scenes to lay the foundation for that. We haven't actually talked about making it a holiday, making Election Day a holiday. I know that's something that's been an effort at the federal level every now and again, but I would definitely say that that is something that we're open to. We want to do another ballot measure soon to restore voting rights for all people impacted by incarceration, including currently incarcerated people. So yes, ballot measures are something that we love to do, and we love to get ideas from folks. So thank you. And I'm looking at time, so maybe I can take like one more question before I pass it back to Jay for us to wrap up. Yeah, any last questions, thoughts, feedback? And again, anything, if you want to send it to me privately, you can email me. All right, well then Jay, I will pass it back to you. Thank you all so very much for listening, for weighing in on this. I am very much looking forward to starting to schedule these candidate interviews in the next couple of weeks. I'm very excited to make candidates listen to formerly incarcerated people and people with loved ones inside, and excited to put the pressure on them to make them pay attention to the issues that are important to our community. So thank you all. And Jay, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Taina. I really appreciate that wonderful presentation that you give with that professional slideshow. Is a great way to break down like the intricacies of the endorsement process, because there's so many moving parts, and it's just going to be so much power building going on. So at this time, we want to thank everybody on the call for being here and for being a part of what we're doing. And for those of you who have chosen membership, we appreciate it, and we ask that you stay involved, that you continue to show up to meetings and be a part of the communal structure and the building that we're doing. For those who haven't yet had a chance to fill out their membership, here's the link in the chat so that you all can click that link right now and be able to fill out your membership application. Once you fill out your membership application, it'll come to me. I'll receive it. You'll get a couple emails from me, and we'll be in communication for a while, have some orientation, things like that going on. And the whole time we'll be building power and growing this organization to, where it's going to be at finally, and that's with the abolition of carceral state. Also, too, while we have this opportunity, I'm going to take the time to drop this link right here in the chat. And that link is to register for our next general member meeting, which is September 13th from 6:30 to 7:30, which is the second Tuesday of the month. So if y'all could please RSVP for that now, that way it's in your calendars and you block that time off, we'd appreciate it. But other than that, I just want to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before you close, I just want to say I have an announcement that I forgot.
Okay.
Sorry, y'all. So I just got some information today around a rally that's happening in support of George Gascon's reform policies next Wednesday, August 17th at the SEIU 2015 building on Beverly. I will be in attendance, and I'll be speaking along with other community organizers and leaders like Eunices Hernandez, who just got elected to City Council District 1. And then other labor leaders from SEIU and Unite Here. August 17th is also the deadline by which we'll find out if the effort to recall George Gascon will qualify or not. It can be announced any day now, but it'll be between now and August 17th. So on the 17th, there's going to be a rally, and anybody who's in LA who would like to attend is welcome to attend. So I'm going to send an email to the membership to invite folks to show up. If you're going to be there, let me know. I could probably bring your membership shirt for you there. But yes, please keep an eye out, and I will send that email. Andy, go ahead.
Jay, when you hit the registration on the link that you put, it says for August 9. So I don't know if mine's is showing a mistake.
Okay.
If you do a drop-down menu, it'll show all the dates for the upcoming meetings. So where
Yeah.
there's the date, there's a drop-down, you just push it, and then you should show the dates.
And if you have some extra time, you can just keep hitting the drop down and keep registering for everyone going forward. That way it saves some time in the future. But thank you. Yeah, thanks for that. I was alone, like, what? I'm like, what's going on? Do I need to go and, you know? But yeah.
No, you're good. It happened to me too, so.
Yeah. So thank y'all for that help with the technical side of things. I really appreciate it. But yeah, everyone, please, you know, hit those links real quick. Fill out your membership application. You'll get an email from me shortly, probably sometime tomorrow or the day to follow. And please register for the general meeting going forward, as well as just be cognizant of your inbox for the updates with the endorsement process and committees. And one thing before we close, like, we do our best to coordinate with other like-minded organizations as far as our meetings, so things shouldn't conflict. If they do and you can't make it or you have trouble, you know, we understand, but we need this involvement here, so that way we show a strong membership to these candidates and they work harder and fight harder for our bills to pass, so that way we could bring people home. So thank y'all, we appreciate it. And I believe that concludes the general mirror meeting for August 2022. Thank
you
y'all.
all so much for being here. Have a great night.
You can unmute and say bye or log off. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Great meeting.
Mad love, mad love.
Bye.
Our membership is lit. Hey, I'll see y'all.
Love.
Love. How you doing, Jolly? That was a good one. That was lit. I'm sorry, I kind of lost pace early on. I think I was just kind of like the words was running together. You did a wonderful job on that presentation. That was amazing.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Did it
But I
make
saw you did a good job.
huh?
I said, from what I seen, you did a great job.
I had just started when you came on. It was hella awkward. Jay passed it to you and I was like, wait, I don't see him anywhere.
I was like,
I
shoot.
froze. At first, I'm like, Jay was talking and then he froze. And then I'm like, oh, he froze. And then I looked at, and then everybody was frozen.
And
I was
like, I'm like, I gave you a smooth, you know, mic pass. I was so happy to get it off, you know, to somebody. And I was like, yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to Emiliano. And then Tina was like, yeah, Jay, I don't think he's here on the call. Like, okay, yeah. So where it's all good, I'll go ahead and give the communications announcement. Then I didn't announce the shirts, but luckily Tina was able to catch that and deliver that. So
I think between the two of us, we you know, handled the fumble pretty well.
yeah.
Man.
And something's going on with the internet in the valley. You at your sister's house?
No, I'm at home, man.
Why you gotta come for the valley, man?
Oh, my bad.
That was
Did I say that out loud?
internet.
Oh.
That was downtown LA internet.
I was just thinking something out loud. My bad.
What's his name is down too. He's in Boyle Heights. Crash.
Yeah.
His internet crashed.
Salute, fam.
Crash.
Oh my God. I was messaging Adam because Adam was like, that photo was fire. And I was like, right, for real,
That
salute.
shit was fire as fuck. I was mad.
Salute.
The jealousy creased across my face when I seen it come. Like, I was not there. It just, but now I came up, bro.
Who told you to be in Kern County, man?
Oh, here you go with the set tripping again. Parole told me to be there.
You're right.
In fact, they made me. And now I'm stuck because I got a family.
You're right.
Stuck. I dropped anchor. It's done.
Oh, we still recording, y'all.
Oh, yeah, we have to edit that out. I used to stop.